Okay, we are fired up on mics now. I have 6:30. We can call this meeting to order. Mr. Hall, would you give us a prayer, please? Let's say prayer.
Let's pray. Our living Heavenly Father, we thank you for each of these that serve our community, the different people across our city, police, the fire, the city workers, those in the office, and all. And we thank you for their diligence and their dedication to our city. We praise you for all that you've done in our city, and we pray that you continue to guide us, give us wisdom and discernment. We thank you of these that sacrifice their time that serve as our leaders. And we just pray, Lord, that you direct our discussions and direct our business this evening in a way that you desire. In Jesus' name, amen.
Could you join me in a pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. Roll call, please, and council members, remind you, turn your mic on when you speak when you're going to speak.
Councilmember Hall.
Present.
Councilmember Chapman.
Present.
Councilmember Hefner.
Here.
Councilmember Brooke.
Here.
And Councilmember Rubel.
Here.
We have a quorum. First up on the agenda tonight is the review approval of the council minutes from March 28th. I would entertain a motion to approve as presented.
Motion.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a second. All those approve say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is department reports and financials. We're minus the financials this month. The CPA was delayed coming in. It'll actually be in this week. So you'll get both of them next month. With that, I would entertain a motion to approve the department reports as presented.
Motion.
All right, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Second, any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Planning Commission report. Mr. Jerry.
Good evening, everyone. Good to be in front of you again. We did have some business. We did not have a meeting the month before, so this is our report since then. Our new business that was brought to us is we've been requested for a rezoning for commercial retail on Highway 38 and Old Highway 38 South. We have scheduled the meeting. It is going to be on April 24th. It'll be at 6:30 p.m. and it'll be held right here in this conference room. And so if you have anyone that is interested in making comments or attending, please let them know. And I encourage all of you to attend too if you have comments or things like that. We did go ahead and approve the final plat for Stagecoach Meadows, which is the plat that you have in front of you. There were a couple of contingencies. I met with Bruce. They've been taken care of. And Robin, a question, do they have grinders? No. There will be no grinders. And so that will be before you. And then we have a sketch plat that we approved at the last meeting for Meadows Estates. And no action taken by you at this particular point in time. And they did a revision for Stagecoach Meadows Phase 2, but nothing that you have to take care of at this particular point in time. We also met with the staff, and we had city council members there and everybody meeting on the Unified Development Ordinance. And I have to say, Bruce and Gary and the whole staff have done a really good job. They've been combing through this thing very carefully, and they've made a lot of changes to the document that you've been looking at. And we are not ready for that at any point in time, but we're going to meet again this coming Wednesday, and we're going to try to complete going through that before we're going to even have any other discussions about it. And our next meeting will be held on the 24th of April. And so if any of you'd like to be able to attend, we would encourage you to do so. So the only business that we have here in front of you is to approve the final plat for Stagecoach Estates.
Final plat is in front of you, and Bruce is here. There was contingency on a couple of issues, compaction tests, and a couple of other things that have been satisfied for that. So this subdivision is ready to go forward with your approval on the final plat. I'd entertain a motion to approve the final plat as presented. Off of East Main.
So Bruce.
They've already done all their preliminary stuff. They're laid the lines, laid the water, laid the hydrants, the roads and everything. This is for your approval at this point.
So all of the contingencies have been completed. Bruce, you don't have anything else needed from them?
Bruce says no. So,
If this passed, you go, Stagecoach is taking the left when you go on East Main? Or is it going
yes,
to-
yes,
So those are every subdivision's back behind that?
right.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the final plat. Do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hall,
Yes.
Councilmember Chapman,
Yes.
Councilmember Hefner,
Yes.
Councilmember Brooke,
Yes.
Councilmember Rubel.
Yes.
Motion carries. Final plat's approved. I entertain a motion to approve the oral planning commission report as presented by Mr. Peters.
Motion.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you very much. Next up on the agenda is the election of city council member. We've had 4 people put their name in. Can I have a listing? And they are Michael Young, Jerry Peters, Stephen Oker, thank you, and Stacy McMahon. You'll each be given 3 minutes to talk in front of the council, and at that time, we get them all, everybody done with it. Council will have an opportunity to vote. Ms. Rummel will take the ballots, and she'll count them and make a decision. You'll need 3 votes in order to seat a member tonight. So if we go in order of last name, M-N-O, I guess M, Ms. Stacy, you're up first.
I'm being very official. I've got my stuff written out. So those of you that don't know me, my name is Stacy McMahon. I am the mother of 3 children, Spence, Madison, and Brandon. I'm the grandmother of 2 and 1 on the way any day. My husband was a previous councilman, Jimmy McMahon. Please do not hold that against me. And other than the time that I attended college in Fayetteville and when I did an internship in D.C., and I lived a few months in Cincinnati, Ohio, majority of my 54 years have been here in the city of Ward. I love the country, and I love the diversity of the people in this community, and it's home. My parents taught my siblings and I a long time ago about volunteerism and the importance of the community. And they served in local government, and they donated the land for Ward Central Elementary in addition to some of the land for the Ward sports complex. And when I returned home from Ohio and began my family, I started a business here in Ward with my sisters called Sisters Care. One sister remains, Carla. And then at that time, I volunteered for Ward Parks and Recreation, and at that time, it was all volunteer-based. And so I literally did everything for 8 years, concession stands, sign-ups, coached t-ball, every league you can possibly imagine. And then I partnered with Jerry Vaughn, and Jerry Vaughn was the principal at Ward Central at the time, and we wrote a grant to obtain the funding needed to do the walking track behind Ward Central Elementary and start the complex over at where it is now. And so I served on Cabot School Board after that, and I'm currently on the Ward Chamber of Commerce, where I'm president, and I campaigned for the company that I work for to relocate into the city of Ward, and for some other businesses like our nonprofits, Beyond Boundaries, and for Jobs for You to come to Ward. So I've been in the field of families with disabilities for 25 years. I am the admin for 2 locations and for about 70 employees. And I have spent most of my time recently in the recovery of my youngest son. He suffered a traumatic brain injury back in June, and so at the high school rodeo finals. And so we've been really working hard on getting him back to himself as close as possible in hopes that he can go to college in the fall. And I am missing the scholarship announcements tonight to be here, so obviously this is an important thing to me. I've typically stuck to volunteer positions just because my children have always come first in my life, and I just feel like it's a bit easier for me to step back when I'm a volunteer. And now that, and especially with the level of a commitment for a city council member. And so this year, Jimmy and I will become empty nesters, and I feel like it's the time for me to step up and to be an active participant. And so I just want you to know that I'm very passionate about the community. I feel like communication is lacking. I spoke once before to the city council about the lack of communication to its constituents, and I'd like to improve that. That's what I went to college for. And I just would like to be a part of the progress to determine where our city is going to in the future, in hopes that it continues to grow.
Very good.
Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. McMahon?
I have a quick question, if
Come
you
on
don't
back
mind.
up.
This was also thrown at me when I was in your shoes. If there was something you could change or improve about Ward, what would it be?
Well, I think I just said part of it. Communication. I feel like that there are a lot of things that you guys do that are good, and then there are a few things that are confusing or cloudy, and I feel like that people just don't understand. And I know that there are social media platforms and there's web things, and those have been improved, but there's also a lot of really simple things that could happen that would take place of like going actually into the community. I had spoken before about the water department using labels or, notes on the door when things are happening in your area, and we still don't get those. And there's never really any follow-up when there's problems. I mean, when I came and spoke to everybody about the water bill, and it wasn't even my water bill, it was my sister's, there was never really any follow-up after that. And so those are the types of things that I feel like that need to improve.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Oker?
How are y'all tonight? My name's Stephen Ocker. I'm a 16-year retired combat veteran, just retired last year. I've always wanted to have a part of my community and do something more, and I wasn't able to do that while I was serving. So now that I'm out for a year, I'm able to look into what I can give back, and it's always been very important to my wife and me to make our community better than it was when we found it. One of our big passions would be to get a spot for the young children, well, young and teenage children in this town. There's no place for them to hang out. There's no place for them to get out of trouble and do what they're supposed to do, learn things, have fun, meet people, communicate. So if I could do anything, that would be one thing that I would like to change around here. I currently work as a building inspector with Half Associates out of Little Rock. In the Air Force, I was a plumber. We did wastewater, water purification, plumbing, interior, exterior. I also worked with natural gas, liquid gas, any kind of infrastructure as well. Y'all have any questions for me?
Any questions? There you go. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Peters?
Hello again. Needless to say, I want to tell you that I have had an interest in Ward in quite some time, as you all have known, and volunteering is part of the whole aspect. I am a United States Navy veteran, and I have also gotten a degree in political science, public administration. I volunteered on many other boards and chaired boards. And when this opportunity came about, I was looking at the chance to be able to help guide Ward where we might be able to go. And having had the experience of being on the Planning Commission and working with Gary and Bruce and all of them at this point in time, I feel I have a good idea of what they're doing and how they are operating inside of our city. And I'd like to be able to sit down and work with everybody to be able to improve the quality of life at Ward. And that's the kind of what I want to talk about, because I think that everybody here that's talking about things is absolutely correct. Communications, places for children, those kinds of things. But I also think that if we had resources, we could do a lot more things. And so I would like to focus on maybe economic development, because I know we have a little bit and there's tads of it starting, but we have to be careful how we develop our city. Otherwise, we're going to have things all over the place. And so I would like to be able to work with you. I think I can contribute to the city council. I have the time and the effort. I'm retired educator, needless to say, 45 years in higher education. Glad I'm not there today, though, very much. But I would really like to be able to serve on this board and look forward to your vote. Thank you. And now I'll answer any questions.
Any questions? Thank you, Ms. Peters. Mr. Young.
All right. First of all, I want to say that when I turned in my affidavit, I didn't know anybody had signed up for this. So y'all's job is really easy tonight, because I don't think you're going to mess up with regardless of who you pick. So as a person that lives in Ward 2, I'm excited about not only myself running, but also who's behind me. So yay for that as a citizen. I'm happy that we have quality candidates. So first of all, before I get too carried away, thank you for what you do. I know a couple of you are newly appointed, but city council is a very thankless job, and I've done quite a bit of research in the last couple of months, and it's like, wow, this is where our government is. It's not in Washington, D.C. I mean, yeah, they affect some of the things, but y'all affect what happens here, and I want to have a little bit of a say in what happens in my city. And my wife and I moved here 4 years ago. We live out on Willow Lake. Absolutely love it here. We've brought 7 foreign exchange students here in that time. They love it here. They still call this place home, and they're back in their countries. So that means a lot to us. Let's see, what else? A little bit about me. I grew up in New Mexico, and my parents divorced when I was a junior in high school, and I got to come to Fordyce, Arkansas to do my senior year after having my friends all the time. But I graduated there, joined the military, did 4 years in the Army, was doing an Air Force job in the Army, decided that wasn't, or I saw how the Air Force was treated, and I said, hey, let me join the Air Force. And so I did 8 years in the Air Force as well. So total of 12 years, had heart surgery in 2009, birth defect that went undetected for 30 plus years, and decided I could have stayed in the military, but with the way things were in my life at that time, I was like, it's time to get out. So, but 12-year veteran, still have a lot of pride in that, still care very much about veterans and stuff like that. So, let's see, my wife and I are both very active in our church. And like I said, Christian values, but also the Air Force. I got out in 2009, but I still believe in the core values of the Air Force, which are integrity, service before yourself, and excellence in everything you do. And I think I would apply that as a council member. I do it in my everyday life. I don't know why I wouldn't on the board, so to speak. So, like I've kind of hinted on, public service is not something I take lightly. I know it's a big responsibility. If you look back at stats, I'm sure all of y'all know, Ward is growing like crazy. 2000, the population of Ward was 2,700. Now it's 6,500. There's infrastructure issues that come with that. There's businesses that could come here that, could make, I mean, I know we live close to Cabot, BB, and people go there. I'm guilty of it. If I want to go get something to eat, I usually go to Cabot or BB. And that's because there's nothing in Ward. When Subway was in Ward, I was a frequent flyer. Yeah, so, but I would like to see businesses, regardless of what they are, if they're serving the public, that's revenue we could have. That's jobs we could have here in our city limits. That's not going elsewhere. So I would be an advocate for that. Let's see. So like you hinted at, economic development is very important. In addition to that, Parks and Rec is very important. I've coached, I've umpired since I was 14 years old. I've been an umpire. I just recently retired, if you will. There's a lot of umpire abuse out there. But, and then, of course, public safety, big thing for me. Law enforcement, we're going to give them every resource we can give them. And Humane Society. I think we can improve our Humane Society here, too. So, and anyway. I know I've probably run over my time, but I'm willing to take any questions you might have.
Any questions for Mr. Young?
I have no questions, but I like what you said. All four of y'all are awesome, and I greatly appreciate you coming up here.
Mike, turn your mic on.
One of y'all will have to learn how to use the mic.
This is true.
But thank you so much for coming up here. If you don't make it, please try again next year or in 2 years. Yeah. So just stay involved. Thank you for coming.
I appreciate it.
Very good. And clerk, would you hand out the ballots, and then she'll count them, and if somebody would like to play the Jeopardy music, go for it. Well, you have to unlock it first.
Do I need to fold this?
Up to you. I said earlier, we'll need 3 votes to seat a council member, and we may have to go to an additional vote. Who knows?
Yes, you did. Oh, you're not ready yet? You want me to fill yours out for you?
You know, I have different opinions from.
Well, I'll fill it out for you, Steph.
I don't know. That's scary.
All right, first vote is for Michael Young. Next one is for Stacy McMinn. The next one is for Jerry Peters. Next one is for Stacy. And the last one is also for Stacy.
If I did my math correctly, y'all confirm 3 votes for Miss Stacy? Miss Stacy, you have been elected to the city council.
And again, the other 3,
Right.
thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for applying.
Just want to add, it was a good group. Y'all did very good presentations. You made a very difficult decision for us.
Y'all made it hard.
Can I come up here and I'll swear you in, and you can go ahead and be seated tonight and get to work.
All right.
You raise your right hand, repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Stacy McMinn,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
thus support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Arkansas,
and the Constitution of the State of Arkansas,
and I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of office of City Council member
the duties of the officer of the City Council member
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thanks, John.
Have a seat. We have paperwork we have to fill out after this, but we'll get that done. So we'd like to welcome Ms. Stacy on to our city council. And if y'all are ready, we'll go ahead and continue on, and all the council members, except Mr. Oker, because he was late getting in today, or just today, had a chance to review all the packages that were available to you all, so she should be somewhat up to date. Next on the agenda is ordinance 2023-03, up for its third reading. Would you read the title, please?
An ordinance establishing a franchise tax for fiber optic services within the corporate city of Ward, Arkansas, and for other purposes.
I'll open the floor for discussion. Yes, again, this is on its third reading. Any public comment? Hearing none. I'd entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2023-03 on its third reading.
Motion.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Chapman?
Yes.
Councilmember Hefner?
No.
Councilmember Brooke?
No.
Councilmember Rubel?
Yes.
And Councilmember Hall?
Yes. And?
And Councilmember McMinn, sorry.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay. As the law allows, we talked about this before, when you have three yes votes and we need 4 votes to move it forward, even with an abstention, the mayor has an opportunity to vote in the affirmative, and that's what I do. I vote in the affirmative. So ordinance 2023-03 is approved for its third reading with my vote. I entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 2023-03.
Motion.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember McMinn? Sorry.
I will abstain.
Councilmember Hefner?
No.
Councilmember Brooke?
No.
Councilmember Rubel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hall?
Yes.
And Councilmember Chapman?
Yes.
Again, council, we have a 3-2 to 1 abstained, and I'll vote for the affirmative to approve this ordinance. Thank you. Next on the agenda is a ordinance 2023-04 about grinder pumps. I wish to pull this tonight and table it for next month. Moving forward, ordinance 2023-06 is up for its first reading. Would you read the title, please?
An ordinance requiring the registration of non-owner occupied short-term rental facilities within the city limits of Ward, declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
If you remember, council, last time we talked about this, the state legislator was having issues with this and ended up not passing a very restrictive legislation package on short-term rentals. This is something we need to move forward with at some point in time. I think, the council asked me last month to come up with some penalties in this, and I did, and some fees for getting the permit. So I will open it for discussion. By the way, the fees schedule was tailored off of North Little Rock's, tailored down to less than what they do.
I think the changes look good.
Did I understand the fee is $200 for the permit?
Per year, yes.
Well, I think that's a bit much.
Well, it's a business, and it's a lucrative business, and it's up for discussion. I mean, obviously. What would your suggestion be?
$50.
$50.
Because not all of them are large businesses, and they may not do this very often.
Well, let's also make sure we understand that owner occupied. If you own the building and you live in it and you just want to rent a room out, there's no permit requiring, there's no fee. If you rent the facility out and you don't live there, then that's when the permitting comes into play.
This is like we spoke about, the Texas companies that are buying residents and then renting them out as VRBOs. They don't live in them, they're just using them
That is
as
the,
that.
yeah, that is the, what's happening.
This isn't where if I'm gonna be on vacation for a month and I wanna rent my house out while I'm gone, this doesn't fall under that.
And again, if you're just renting your bedroom out because you're empty nesting and you got bedrooms to rent, you're still living in a house, this doesn't apply.
Because that's what I worry about. That's what I worry about, is the individual citizen having to spend more money,
No, this doesn't apply.
trying to make some money.
Yeah, I understand. That doesn't apply to,
Okay.
now, again, it doesn't apply to owner occupied. And I've asked the state legislature, our state rep, state senator, and the municipal league to, at the next legislative session, to clarify that in the law. If they're gonna pass a law about it, clarify that, because I think it's important that your own house, if you're gonna live in it and you want somebody to, and you wanna rent a room out, that's up to you. That's your house. But if you're going to not live in it and you're gonna treat it as a business, then it should be treated as a business.
Does Cabot have a policy like this?
I'm not sure if they do or not. I think they do. Most cities are are pushing this through. Most of them held off for a moment, waiting for the state, because the bill that was put out for the state completely, we got all our rights taken away from us. You couldn't permit, you couldn't do anything. That fell through. There was more than 60, there was 6 hours of discussion, public comment on this particular bill. I'm not sure if Cabot has it. Cabot will. Cabot has a lot more short-term rentals than we do. Then if they don't, then that's on them, of course.
In Northwest Arkansas, I know some people that have Airbnbs, and they're all controlled by their homeowners associations and where they live in their neighborhoods.
Probably, but we don't have homeowner association here.
I know.
So, and then somebody brought that up at in a discussion at the state legislature when I was there. But not every, they said, well, if you want to do that, then you should form a homeowner association. Well, no, subdivisions are not going to do that. If they're not brought in with a homeowner association, it's unlikely they're ever going to create one. So it's incumbent upon us, I believe, as the government, to regulate this a little bit. Not in total. Again, I think there's a distinct line of owner-occupied, non-owner occupied. And I think we should go with that.
How many months is the owner-occupied, non-owner occupied? Is it like 6 months or at all?
I'm sorry, in terms of?
You considering it owner-occupied or non-owner occupied, how many months does the owner have to live in it?
Well, I hadn't really thought about that, to tell you the truth, because in all of my research and all of my discussions and listening, that hasn't been brought up. You talk about somebody who lives in their house 4 months out of the year and then rents it for,
6?
you know, they still have to get a permit for that time period in which they are not living in the house.
But I think what she's asking is, we got some people, snowbirds, that will go down to Florida for,
Sure.
say, 6 months at a time, but they want to rent their house out that time, but they're still the owners of that house.
And it's 30 days at a time, though, true. If they
So-
want to rent it out for over 30 days, like 6 months, that's just a lease, that's just a
Because if
rental.
you could make this read to where it was a business that was doing it for profit, that had several, then I would say bump it up to 1,000 and be good. But as it reads, if I wanted to, say I had to take a job in Texas,
Yes,
so I rented my house out for 6 months while I was on contract.
6 months is over 30 days. This is 30 days or less.
You're saying, okay, but you can have, a short-term rental for 6 different people in 30 days, that's still short-term rental.
That's still bad. You
So
still need to get a
have
permit for the 6 months.
But, huh?
You still need to get the permit.
But why? The owner is the one doing it, it's not an owner occupied.
I think
Yeah.
the reason we need to do it is because of the same problem that we were concerned about, loud noises, things we can't deal with, we don't have contact numbers. And so even if they're snowbirds, we still need that information.
And again, if they're doing 30 days at a time, it's still a short-term rental and they need to be permitted.
But don't you still have the contact information if it's someone who owns it? I mean, only reason I'm saying
No.
that, I mean, the Airbnbs and all those, my niece does this, and she does it on the weekends. Like, she'll leave for the weekend and rent her apartment out or whatever. And then my in-laws that are in Northwest Arkansas do the same thing, but they do the same thing where they they're there a lot, but every once in a while they'll rent it out. And so theirs is all just geared because of homeowners association. I was asking questions.
What'd they say?
Well, that's what they said. They were like, oh no, it's just has to deal with your homeowners because they have a home in Springdale and then they have this lake home
Right.
on Beaver. And so they split up their time between the two places, but they rented out quite a bit. And so they started doing Verbo and everything because so many people were asking them to do it. So they don't do it all the time, but I said, what do you have to do with that? And they just said, oh, we just had to fill out the paperwork. We have to do, pay taxes, blah, 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 like we normally do. And I said, well, is there something with your city? And they said, no, it just has to do with your homeowners
What city was that?
association. They're, I don't know what they
I know
would be
Bella
part
Vista.
of.
Bella Vista is the driver that started the state discussion.
Yeah, they're on a different part of Bella Vista, so, because they're on Beaver, I don't know.
Bella
You
Vista.
mentioned taxes, though. I mean, if they're paying taxes, we want those taxes.
Well, they just mean property
That's what I'm
taxes.
saying.
They
So
just meant property
if they're not
taxes, what
registered,
they're
we're not
doing.
getting taxes.
Well,
They're just paying property taxes for the home, is what I mean.
right.
And
Which
part of it too is like the mayor said in the past, if there's a complaint and it's a residence being rented to some third party and there's an issue, the city doesn't necessarily know who's the point of contact, emergency contact for that.
Yeah, but
And
that's
that
what
would
I'm
be part of the
saying, like,
permit
even if
process.
those are rentals, like the rentals, I think that's a problem when it's a long term, because then you really don't, because the people that are doing short terms are more active in their homes because they have to set everything up and reset everything. So like when you're talking about snowbirds, they don't typically, unless they hire somebody to come in and clean their homes, they're not doing that. Like the Verbos, I think are for like longer term things, but like the Airbnb things are people that are doing short term stuff. Which I guess I could talk to Martha Marshall. She has the inn in Cabot. They do that. She does like a bed and breakfast type of thing.
right.
It's
And this is
interesting either way.
this is a first reading and we can bring it back for questions or whatever, but we need to start and we need to have some sort of policy, permitting policy for this. And this is a good place to start. There probably are some questions that need to be answered. In looking at some other ordinances, North Little Rock's ordinance is very, very intense. But we don't need to be that, I don't believe. Nor do we have the resources to, keep up with that like they do in North Little Rock. They have an entire section that does nothing but things like that. But we have the ability to look at VRB. And another question I brought up to an individual who was a short-term rental, had several houses in the Bella Vista area, was that apparently Airbnb and BBR, whatever it's called, police their clients. And if they get a bunch of complaints against them, then they will drop them. But I told him, but the problem with that is that's good, but what about the people who rent or advertise on Facebook Marketplace? They don't go through Airbnb. They just go through Facebook or friends or whatever and get this clientele going. That's the ones we have to worry about. The idea is if you have a long-term lease, if you have a 6-month, year lease at your house, you're either the owner is either going to be on the water bill, so we know who to contact, or the renter with a lease agreement is going to be on the water bill. This, a lot of times, is going to be a corporation, wherever. And that's why we need a permitting process to have a 24-hour point of contact. And this was also covered you'll see it in the UDO, it's covered in that also, suggestion. We're just trying to get ahead of the ballgame, if you will. Because this sort of lifestyle is becoming more and more.
So the concern is more for like corporations, like you said, coming in and
Sure.
purchasing those than it is just like individuals.
Again, if owner occupied, they live in a house, it doesn't matter what they do. I mean, it matters. That's not the point. But we're not going to permit them, and if you want to rent,
I mean, even if it's my house, it's still, I'm operating the business.
you are, but not. I mean, I have an apartment behind my garage that my mother lives in. When, God forbid, when she passes, I may want to rent that out. I may want to rent out as a short-term rental. I don't know. but I'll still live in the facility. So I could rent it out long-term or short-term.
And that's, the reason I even ask about it is we have a home that I'm currently renting out, and we've talked about doing that like an Airbnb type of thing because my family is so large, it's nice to have it when they all come home because we don't have room for everybody and it's really expensive to put everybody in places. So we've talked about doing that because my niece and my in-laws were doing it. So I started researching a little bit on it, like how does that work, and asking questions because honestly, we probably would not do it that frequently, but it would be nice at times to at least cover our remaining mortgage on it.
You still live on the property though, so.
But not in that
Well,
house.
not on that house, not my old house. Like I live next door in Mom's.
I mean, you're still.
Yeah, but I mean,
Still wouldn't be owner occupied, if you will, by the true sense of it.
yeah, that's
Live
kind
in the facility.
of sneaky.
You know what you're saying on your garage, apartment, whatever it is? You don't live in the facility either.
It's connected.
Technically, but you don't live in the facility.
It's connected. It's one dwelling. Otherwise, I couldn't have it in that R1 area. How about any public input? Y'all have any comments on this? Okay. Well, any more comments, any questions, discussion? I'd entertain a motion to put ordinance 2023-06 on its first reading approval. Have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Pardon me?
I mean.
We have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
And we have a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hefner,
No.
Councilmember Brooke,
No.
Councilmember Rubel,
I'm gonna say yes.
Councilmember Hall,
Yes.
Councilmember Chapman,
Yes.
and Councilmember McMinn.
No.
So we have a tie at 3-3. Is that how you count it? I'll vote in the affirmative to break the tie.
I think it needs more work.
Okay, hang on a second. Ordinance 2023 is approved on its first reading. Somebody want to make a motion for what they want to see more work on?
I would like to see kind of what we're mirroring off of, like North Little Rocks or somebody relatively close. I want to see what their definition of owner occupied versus non-owner.
I'll answer you that question. I don't know if anybody's thought of that. And what I've done my research, they're just calling short-term rental. But again, I think it's very important. If it's you're staying in a house, that's up to you. So I'm not sure we're going to find that, but we'll look. So, what do you have a motion, or that's?
That's my motion, and like Robin said earlier, I want to see something about a timeline. How long does the owner have to stay in the facility? You know, like the whole snowbird thing. If they're 6 months here and then 6 months in Arizona or whatever it may be, that's more of what I'm asking for is, what's the timeline that constitute owner occupied versus non-owner occupied?
If they're not in the facility while it's being rented as short-term rental, then it's non-owner occupied. If they're still living in the house and renting a room, then it's owner occupied. If they've gone to Florida for 6 months, that's not owner occupied.
I think that's going to hurt a lot of the Air Force. You know, they may own a house and have to go get deployed somewhere, and they like to rent their houses. And
Those are over 30 days.
Right. As a Air Force retiree who went overseas for 3 years and rented my house, I would not have rented my house on short-term rental for 3 years. They come back and,
I worry about us penalizing grandma who's just trying to make a buck.
again, if grandma
Yeah.
lives in the house,
But she doesn't always live in the house. She might go visit her nieces.
well,
But if it's a corporation-
I think you're splitting hairs in. She's still owner occupied. If she goes away for the weekend and somebody's in the house, I mean, Come on.
Well, you just said if the owner wasn't there, that's short-term rental.
It's
Short-term.
true, but it's still owner occupied. We wouldn't worry about it, would we?
Well, I'm just trying to get it
Here's what I'd
to
like.
the corporation.
Here's what I'd like to do. A lot of discussion. Council, go do your research. Okay, we've approved it on first reading. It takes 3 readings to approve. Go do your research. Come back next month with your ideas, your thoughts. If it gets so convoluted that we need to have a working group on this, we can do this. But as opposed to a motion to look up something, do your research, talk to your, Stacy, talk to your contacts, and see what they think of this. Let them see the ordinance. What do they think of this? And see what it is. I have not had contact with the short-term rentals that we have in the city already. But, would that be fair enough?
That's good.
Okay, let's do that. Let's just, y'all go back and do your research. Let's come back next month, ready to discuss this a little more. That's what the beauty of doing things over 3 months on 3, readings is what it's for.
Mayor, if you're finished with that,
I am.
I may have missed it. I had an emergency up in Beebe. Did we have a resolution for the acknowledgement of the election for Stacy?
You know what? We did not put one out,
I didn't
and we
think
need to
did.
have one.
Yeah, I think we did.
do.
She was voting without a resolution. is what I
Well,
was-
that's not, that's cardinal sin. That's not going to negate anything, but
Yeah.
we can do one real quick. We can look at it. Remind me at the end, we'll go back and look up what the next resolution number is.
Formality.
No, it is. It's, in all honesty, it's not required by law. It's just in my opinion, it's a good thing to do, and we completely forgot about it. Thank you very much. So at the end, we'll go look up the next resolution number, create one on the, and go from there. But thank you, Mr. Hall. I appreciate that. Okay. So we're done with this. Now we're up to,
New business.
new business. Okay. Ordinance 2023-07. Would you read the title, please?
An ordinance authorizing a change to the City of Ward Personnel Handbook, establishing the city's Wi-Fi usage policy and remote access policy, declaring an emergency, and for other purposes.
I'd like to make a motion, we approve this.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
I'll open the floor for discussion. Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Brooke,
Yes.
Councilmember Rubel,
Yes.
Councilmember Chapman,
Yes.
Councilmember Hall,
Yes.
and Councilmember McMahon,
Yes.
and Councilmember Hefner.
Yes.
Entertain a motion, ordinance 2023-07 is approved on its first reading. I entertain a motion to waive the rules for second and third reading.
Motion.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2023-07.
Motion.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Rubel,
Yes.
Councilmember Hall,
Yes.
Councilmember Chapman,
Yes.
Councilmember McMahon,
Yes.
Councilmember Hefner,
Yes.
Councilmember Brooke.
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-07 is approved. I would entertain a motion to enact the emergency clause.
Motion.
No, you have to approve, and then you have to, the emergency clause has to be a separate action. It's the law. All right, we have a motion to second. Roll call, please, for the emergency clause.
Councilmember Hall,
Yes.
Councilmember Chapman,
Yes.
Councilmember McMahon,
Yes.
Councilmember Hefner,
Yes.
Councilmember Brooke,
Yes.
and Councilmember Rubel.
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-07 as approved with the emergency clause. Thank you, council. Next on the agenda is ordinance 2023-08. Would you read the title, please?
An ordinance amending the Ward Police Department Policies and Procedures Manual marked as Exhibit A and for other purposes.
Council, this was provided to you in an electronic version. This is the policies, procedures for the license plate reader cameras. We're not in place yet. Again, RDOT hasn't approved the permitting, but once they get in place, we want to go ahead and have the policy in place for when they are set up and going.
I'd like
Motion
to,
approved.
second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Yes, you have any comment?
I have a question.
Sure.
It said in what we, I'm sorry. It said in what we received, there was an amendment attached, but I did not see it. Did I miss the
It
amendment?
should have been sent to you on your electronic version.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. It may be under attachments, under the
Attachments,
other
yes.
folder. So what is,
I will
it's-
tell you, it is Cabot PD's exact
so it just
procedure.
shows the
They've had-
guidelines, the details. I was wanting the details and I didn't see them.
There are very specific details in state law on
Yeah.
how to handle license plate reader data,
Right.
which is covered in this, how long you can keep it, which is, this company keeps it less time than what they could keep it. And then reporting that we have to do.
Right.
Every now and then, I don't remember exact timing, but by law, there's some reporting.
I just wanted to make sure that they,
Oh, there you go.
I just, okay, all right, thank you.
City attorney's read through it, I read through it, bounced it against the state law, and it covers everything. And again, it's Cabot's that we just changed the name, to tell you the truth. So,
I just wanted to make sure we had one. I hadn't seen this.
yeah, okay. So we have a motion, a second, for its first reading. Would you, roll call, please?
Councilmember Chapman?
Yes.
Councilmember McMahon?
Yes.
Councilmember Hefner?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooke?
Yes.
Councilmember Rubel?
Yes.
And Councilmember Hall.
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-08 is approved for its first reading. I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules for second and third reading.
Motion.
Second.
A motion second, all approved for suspending the rules? Say aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2023-08.
Motion.
Second.
Motion and second, roll call, please.
Councilmember McMahon?
Yes.
Councilmember Hefner?
Yes.
Councilmember Brooke?
Yes.
Councilmember Rubel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hall?
Yes.
And Councilmember Chapman.
Yes.
Ordinance 2023-08 is approved. We do not need an emergency clause for this one. This will go into effect in 30 days. And the cameras are not going to be installed within 30 days. If they do, they'll just sit there. Do what? Yeah, we'll see. All right, next on the agenda is ordinance 2023-09. Would you read the title, please?
An ordinance amending ordinance 2021-03, which amended,
Ordinance. I need to put that word in there.
-W-1-93, creating a city planning commission, setting terms of members, election of officers, rules, employment of assistants, expenditures, powers and duties, declaring an emergency, and for other purposes.
Council, in 2021, we created a rule that you had to live within the city limits to be on a planning commission. State law allows you to live within the planning jurisdiction. And for the city of Ward, by law, the jurisdiction is 1 mile outside the city limits. This allows us to open up the basis of the population that may want to be on our planning commission and live within the planning jurisdiction. Any discussion?
Do we have a guide? Is there a guideline on members? I mean, how many members would be allowed that don't live within the city
Yes,
limits?
actually, state law says 1/3 of the commission. Yeah, that's all it can be.
It's just 1 mile.
It's our planning jurisdiction is by law 1 mile.
I make a motion, we pass it.
We have a motion to approve on its first reading. We have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hefner,
Yes.
Councilmember Brooke,
No.
Councilmember Rubel,
Yes.
Councilmember Hall,
No.
Councilmember Chapman,
No.
Councilmember McMinn.
No.
Ordinance 2023-09 dies for lack of a majority. And council? I will tell you that we do have a planning commission opening that we'll be advertising starting tomorrow. Open to any resident of the city, not anybody else, resident city. Mr. Tyler Manning hadn't been making any meetings, and by ordinance, I took him off the commission. And we're going to look at some others too, so
Is he a volunteer fireman?
not really anymore, no. I talked to him, told him what I was going to do, and he fully understood. He's got a young family, young daughter, and so anyway, I will be, we will put that out, and then I'll bring that to the commission, or the council, next month, hopefully. Next up on the agenda is my mayor's report. If I can find it. There it is. It's the SARTS 4 sidewalk project. We're still waiting RDOT to release that project to go for construction design. The meter replacement program rocks on, if you will. It's going to be a long-term project. We do have some of the material in, but it's going to take a while. The Ward to Austin Cabot pedestrian bike trail is still open, but the Ward to Austin segment is on hold for right now because we ran into a situation in Austin with landowner who will not budge on their opposition for this. So that's on hold for right now for that Ward to Austin segment. The Austin to Cabot segment is still going on. Because of that, the Ward Trailhead section that we had got approved by RDOT is on hold for now, because if we can't connect from us to Austin, then why put a trailhead in? Because it'd be a sidewalk out of the park to nothing. So we're on hold for right now on that. We have put in the paperwork for RDOT TAP for a SARTS 5 sidewalk project. Those who attended the workshop, if you remember correctly, we were going down Brewer Street and off to the side to the railroad track. The railroad track portion is not going to go. We've already been told that's a non-starter until we get a sidewalk portion on the railroad itself to connect to. And that's not going to happen anytime soon. They are have engineering and Metroplan and exploring that, but that's a long-term railroad process. So we're not going to be able to put in for that little jog up there at this time. Or if we did, we'd just be disapproved and a waste of time and money. We have submitted the proper paperwork for the Arkansas Economic Development Council Community Development Block Grant to remove the remaining homes off the vacuum system. We've also submitted an application to the WAC, which is the Water Wastewater Advisory Committee through ANRD. We have to get their approval to go through a process like this, and so those two applications are been submitted. Unified Development Ordinance, Jerry spoke about it earlier, had a very, very good meeting last Wednesday. Mr. Chapman attended, I think you agreed it was a very good meeting. If you want to attend this Wednesday at 6:30, we'll be going over it again. And then, like I've said all along, this process will come to this council at some point in time for approval and by ordinance. License plate reader cameras, like I said, is still waiting RDOT permits. The Consolidated 911 Center, there's really been no change. I have talked to the county judge and reminded him that we have to get on this or we're going to be behind a power curve quickly. Broadband deployment, some areas in town are start being connected to Connect You First, and deployment continues. We are working up the paperwork for a wastewater rate study as required by Act 605, and we'll get that into the Arkansas Rural Water Association when we get all the paperwork together. I'm having a virtual town meeting on May 18th at 6:30. It'll be right here. Open up. There'll be no agenda, no whatever. I'm going to open it up and we'll see what happens. And that'll all be fun. Spring cleanup is April 29th from 8 o'clock to 3 p.m. If you want to volunteer to come out and help, that'd be great. They'll need volunteers, and if you want to, grab your trailer and just swing around town and see what you need to pick up. That's what I usually do. I just drive around town and pick up things. We don't encourage people to put things on the curb, but anyway, they do at times. And that's all I have for this month. Do we have any non-agenda items? Nobody? Very good. That's all we have for the council meeting tonight. Announcements, public hearing at 6:30. UDO meetings on the 19th at 6:30, public hearing from R1 to C2 is going to be here at 6:30, followed by the planning commission meeting that same night. Spring cleanup, like I said, it's the 29th. May 6th, movies in the park at dusk, where we're playing E.T. That'll be a lot of fun. We've got some other special things planned for that night. Fishing derby is May 13th, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. That's youth fishing derby, so don't everybody, adults aren't invited. Well, and the city council meetings at 6:30, and the planning commission for May is on May 22nd. That's all on the agenda tonight. As a reminder, the path that took the eclipse, April 8, 2024. It's going to be a big thing. They're now predicting through what happened 2017 was Chapman, and 2017 that Cheyenne, Wyoming, was it? Casper, Wyoming, population tripled. So we had to.
They also, afterward, decided it brought in about 170 million to the local economies.
Right. This.
South Carolina, it was like.
Mike.
I read all the PowerPoints today, and I think it was like 68,000 in that small weekend or whatever, too.
Right. It's a economic boom. It's going to be a population nightmare. It's going to be probably a week.
How many short-term rentals we're going to have?
Could have some. Could have some.
My wife said that.
Whether or not they have a permit or not, well, we'll see.
My wife said she was in a meeting like you've all
Yes.
attended. She said that they'd said that Conway hotels are almost all booked up.
Yes. Understanding that all available hotels in Hot Springs are already booked.
They're doing 4 days.
Minimum 4 days. Yeah. It's going to be it'll be a once in a lifetime thing for some. It doesn't happen again until 2045. I'm not sure I'll still be here.
I'll be dead.
With the announcement that Robin will be dead by that time, I'd entertain a motion.
You want to do Stacy's now?
Oh, yes, sir. My goodness, thank you for keeping us on track there. Hang on a second, folks. Don't go nowhere.
Well, while you're doing that, I would like to ask if the city has recycling.
Behind City Hall.
No, I mean for like paper, this kind of stuff.
Yes. Yeah, we can put it back in the recycling behind City
Oh,
Hall.
I thought we just had trash, or not trash, plastic and cardboard.
No, there's paper too,
Okay.
and cardboard. Let me see, where am I at?
I can throw this in there.
We also have shredding. It's only what I'm looking for, shoot. I know. Resolution number. Looks like 12 was the last one. So I'm going to read, so it's 12. Okay, so we're going to call this Resolution 2023-0-12. Resolution acknowledging the election of a city council member to city ward by majority vote, governing body. Whereas during the March 2023 city council meeting, was it Ward 2, position 1, was declared vacant by the city council members. due to Eric resigning. Now therefore is resolved by the City Council that Stacy McMahon has been found duly qualified and eligible to serve on the City Council member for Ward 2, Position 1, and was elected this date by a majority vote of remaining City Council members to commence with such duties immediately. Having said all that, I'd entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2023-12. Motion. We have a motion. We have a second? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Rubel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hall?
Yes?
Councilmember Chapman?
Yes.
Is Stacy going to?
She'll have to abstain.
Right. Councilmember McMinn?
Abstain.
Councilmember Hefner?
No, just kidding.
And Councilmember Brooke?
Yes.
Okay. Resolution 2023-12 was approved. You're now officially welcome. Thank you, Mr. Hall, for reminding us and keeping us on track on that. With that in mind, and again, with Robin's declaration, it should be dead by 2045, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
We have a motion. We have a second. She seconds it. We're good.